Hi all. Feel free to switch your video on if you want to. You by no means limited.
Hello, Katie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
I got
about my balloon as usual.
Go awfully badly wrong because I've got two children at home with me.
Oh
no. Yeah.
You can do it. It's all good.
He gets a cough every winter. He basically gets a cough in September and he finishes it in April. So we knew from the very offset that it just wasn't like we were going to spend quite a lot of this school year like just not being in school. And then Monday night, the Sunday night, like Monday morning, I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I could hear him just coughing, and I was like, right, well, they're not having him at school. So I went and got the COVID test for the 4th time in 3 months. And last time we did it, it was within 24 hours. So I was like, well, if I get it done Monday morning, he might be back in school on Tuesday, but no. So now there's a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old upstairs.
Oh, wonderful.
World War III might break out, but they've been given laptops.
It's all good. I've got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. I know what it's like.
Yeah, jolly good. Right. Well, if World War III breaks out, then I'll at least I'll know that there's somebody else who understands.
Yeah. Smile and carry on.
And we live right near a racing stables, and apparently today is the day. There must be a meet on or something because there's just lorries like full of horses going past me as well and bungling past. So it's going to be noisy too. I'm sure it'll be fine.
It will. Deep breaths.
Where are we? I'm going to give it a couple more minutes and then we'll crack on, I reckon.
I haven't done the pre-work stuff yet. I meant to, I wanted to, and I just haven't done it.
Oh, please don't worry about it. It's fine. Because I think honestly, like in this session, like even to do a SWOT analysis, like when I did a SWOT analysis, I did it took me like 2 hours to do it properly because you start off and you brainstorm like a massive list of stuff and you've got to take time and winnow it down because really by the end of the planning session, what you want ideally is sort of no more than 5 like big tasks to try and get done in a year. So I wouldn't worry about it too much, honestly, because I think...
Yeah, no, there were good questions and it's kind of like I saw them and it's like, yes, I want to do this. And I just haven't actually done it.
Do it after, it's fine.
So I might do it after, yeah. I've looked at them again and stuff, yeah.
It don't
matter. Hilarious. I've gone back to last year's planner and there's hardly anything in it, so it's...
Now,
not again this year.
I know, like I've got my posh, it's called a Smart Fox planner this year and I'm loving it. It's got stickers and stuff as well. But like that's my that's going to be my day-to-day planner. But what I wanted and what I'm hoping that you found was the yearly planner that was on the member vault, like just something that I can go back to. Oh, have you printed? Flipping at you're organised though, aren't you?
I've not printed all of it. I've just done the beginning bit up to January, I think. Yeah.
Oh no, that's all right. That's fine. Like it's a lot of colour to print as well, isn't it?
Well, I did it in black and white.
Good. Well, I thought like, should I make it and then make it a PDF and then like put, like put fields in it and stuff because then you can do it online. But I always find if I've got one of those things, I never use it.
No, I'm not very good with those. I'd rather write it down. But
it's got to be in front of me like something physical. It's an ex-teacher thing. I think I like having papers in front of me. Like more paperwork, the merrier. This right. Well, we've got a good few people in here, guys. The rest of you, like if I've got it so that if your camera's off, it doesn't show you on the screen because it's mental to just have people's names. But if you want to switch your camera on and take part, you're more than welcome. If you don't want to switch your camera on and you just want me to like chat at you, that's also fine. What I would say is, I was just saying to Joe, I've got an unforeseen number of children upstairs at the second who are waiting for COVID tests to come back. So World War III might break out. I'm really hoping it doesn't. They're under like threat of dire consequences if not. So what I thought would be the best way of doing it would be if you have a question while I'm talking, I'm very glad to answer questions. It might be a good idea, I reckon, to put the questions in the chat. And then when we get to a good stopping point, we can go through questions and talk about them then. That way, I always find it really hard on webinars you like to start waving hands, and because whoever's talking is really concentrating on talking, they never see someone waving because they want to say something. So I thought that might be the best way, but equally, if you want to just interrupt me, please do. I used to be a teacher and I'm very much used to being interrupted, and I'm quite happy for it to happen. So welcome. I'm really pleased that you came along. I hope this session is going to be really useful for you. You're in the right place, basically, if you've never created a business plan before, because I hadn't until I started my business. I was a teacher for 10 years. And I think it's one of the things that you don't really think about, is it? The other thing that I think is, when I first started the business, I didn't do a business plan either. And it was because it was just me. And I was like, well, like, if I'm not applying for funding, what's the point of, like, I don't like pointless paperwork. And so I didn't do one. But actually, I found that left me quite directionless, because I felt like there were so many things to do in the business, and I wanted to do all of them. And one day I'd be like, right, I've got to sort out my marketing. And so I'd pour everything into marketing. But then the next day I'd be focused on something different. And you end up just kind of like hosing your energies everywhere, and you never achieve anything. So what I decided I wanted to do was to use what I know from teaching about targets and goals and how it can motivate you and give you direction, because that's what it used to do for the children. And actually for teachers as well. Teachers all work for targets too. So that's what I decided to do. So hopefully you are in the right place. My name is Katie. As I said, I used to be a teacher. I crashed out over 3 years ago now, because I was working 60 and 70-hour weeks. I already had one kid. We moved from Manchester down to where we are in Shropshire at the moment. And then I was doing a 60 and 70-hour week, but with the added joy of an hour-and-a-half commute on top of it either way. I ended up not asking for help. Nobody noticed that I was struggling until it was far too late. And I ended up having a panic attack in the car, nearly crashing, and that was it. I went off at 6 months pregnant with the 3-year-old Terror, who's upstairs at the moment. I'd saw out my maternity leave and I never went back. And I kind of fell into being a VA, really, because there's a lady down the road in the posh house. We are not the posh house is down the road, and she owns her own financial business, which she runs by herself, and has 4 children. So she's got a lot to do. And so I ended up being kind of a VA for her. It was a PA more, helping her with invoices and stuff like that. And then just helping her with like general life organisation. So, you know, making sure that the cars got their MOTs on time. She had 4 cars, I think. Christ knows why, but that's another story. So I did that for quite a long time. And then she ended up going back out to Sweden, which was fine, because that was how I started being a virtual assistant. We would have online meetings every week, and I would still do all the stuff that she needed to be done. It was just that we had a bit more distance. But then once COVID struck, her work became completely online. She was no longer traveling. She no longer needed like expense reports and stuff like that doing. So it sort of, it tinkled downwards the amount of hours that she needed. And I decided that while the kids were home and my husband was home to look after them, there was no real better time to sort of see whether I could turn it into a real thing. And that's what I've been doing this year, and it's gone really well. I'm really pleased, but I have felt really directionless at times, and like I'm just trying to do everything but achieving nothing. And I'm really hoping that that this planning session will help all of us to find direction and really to maintain motivation right through the year, because that's another thing. Like, I started to get tired around, I don't know about you guys, but like probably when the second lockdown started, I was just like, oh God, and I didn't want to do it anymore, and my motivation was completely gone, and I stopped doing my social media stuff. And you know, all these things start to seem like a lot more bother than they should be when you don't know what it is that you're aiming for. So yeah, the first slide does say, why bother? Why bother writing a business plan when you're by yourself? Like, there's nobody else runs this business except me. I'm sure the rest of you are the same. There might be you and maybe one other person. Maybe you guys have got a VA who helps you along with things. Like, there's no point having pointless paperwork. But a good plan isn't pointless paperwork. It's not. As long as you use it and you go back to it, you are going to find that a good plan is going to help you a lot. With my students, I found that if I gave them a target for the year, it kept them motivated and it kept them focused. When when they were feeling a bit down in the dumps, we'd say to them, but look, like, here's your target that we set at the beginning of the year, and look how far you are along to achieving it. So keep going, because you can do the rest of it. And it really helped them. I think also, if there is more than one of you on a team, a really good plan can help to unify you as well. Instead of sort of pulling in two different directions, if you sort of sit down and work together, brainstorming on the SWOT analysis and deciding what are the most important bits that you want to pick out of it to make your targets, you can feel unified and work as a team together to achieve that as well. Another great thing about a plan, especially if you go back to it at least once a month, is that it will stop you from getting bogged down in the daily sort of admin tasks that a business brings with it. Like all of you, like, oh God, I've got to do my social media for this week. Oh God, like I've got to do my invoices. Oh, someone hasn't paid their invoice. I've got to chase it up. And all of these things can stack and stack and stack until you've just got no brain space left. Whereas if you've got a plan and you've broken it down into monthly targets, you know what you need to achieve by the end of that month, and you can plan time into your week or your month to make that happen. A good plan can show you how much progress you've made. Like I just said, with students, when you're feeling a bit low, if you look at the target that you've got and what you've achieved towards it, it can really help to push you onwards in those hard times. And I think we've got to face it, 2020 has been one big, long, hard time, from floods to fires to pandemics. I mean, really, I don't know how many more horsemen of the apocalypse there are to come, but I wouldn't put it past 2020 to do something really awful in the last couple of weeks. A good plan can also help you to measure your success. And I think that's a really important thing for motivation, is to say, well, look what I achieved. I did all of this in 1 year, and it helps you to go on to further success in the next year. Like if you're achieving your targets, it makes you want to do it again the next year, and that is going to help your business to grow, isn't it? And let's face it, that's what we all want to happen. And I think having a good plan also, to an extent, helps you to plan for the future in terms of awful things that might happen. I mean, not always, because I don't think anybody sat here in 2019 and went, do you know what, let's just plan in case a dreadful pandemic comes along. But it can help us, as far as is humanly possible, to see what could come to hurt us and our businesses, and to kind of take account for that as well. And a lot of us are going to have to do that this year with our plans, to look at how COVID and Brexit, I guess, as well, Bojo allowing, see how that could potentially hurt our businesses, and work out a way to put off those threats as well. So yeah, hopefully a plan is a really good way of doing it. And as Charles Darwin says, it's the people who are most responsive to change who are the most successful. Like, that's how evolution works. It's the creatures who evolve, isn't it, who are the ones that survive. And a plan will help you to evolve. It will help your business to grow and to change when it needs to change, as a lot of us had to this year. So as a teacher, I like to have a good learning intention. So here's ours for today. This is our overall goal. So if you were looking at it in terms of goals and targets, this would be like our annual target for the year. So today's goal, by the end of this session, I'd like you to have used a SWOT analysis, or at least begun to use a SWOT analysis, to create an accurate picture of how your business is looking at present. And then we'll use our SMART targets to set goals for 2021. So that's what we should be able to do by the end of today. So let's go straight into SWOT analysis. I know a lot of business planning things talk about like writing down your reason for having a business, but frankly, I think we all know our reason for having business, and woo is not, it's not large on my radar. Like, I know I've got kids, I know I like them, I know I'd love to, give them a holiday or something nice like that if I can. I don't need it written down on a big piece of paper in front of me. What I do need is achievable targets for my business and making my business grow, because I love my kids, but I also love my business and I want my business to grow too. So SWOT analysis, we're going to learn what it is. We're going to understand what it can tell us about our business, and we're going to begin to create our own individual SWOT analysis. So this is a SWOT analysis grid. It's a really simple, just 4 quadrants. The top 2 quadrants are your strengths and your weaknesses. And what they do is to tell you like the internal parts of your organization, what's going well and what's not going so well. So stuff that's very personal to you and your business. And then the bottom 2 quadrants, the opportunities and threats, are all about the external factors, things that you have got no control over, but that will affect you. So in general, businesses use SWOT analyses to pinpoint their current position, and it's used as like an overall, like an umbrella look at the company, a look down to see the whole thing. But there's nothing to stop you, and I think it's quite powerful actually to use it to focus on pieces of your business as well. So if you already know, for example, that you really want to focus on your marketing this year, well, don't waste time on thinking about other things. Like, you use strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, and use it focused in on marketing. Like that could work very well for you. Today, though, I'm going to talk about using it as an umbrella to look at everything. You use your SWOT analysis to make the most of what you've got, and to use it to your organization's best advantage. That's why it's really useful. And also, I think a SWOT analysis can minimize your chances of failure as well. I think the statistic I read said that over half of small businesses last for 5 years or less. So I think the ones who do last longer are the ones who are proactive about looking at themselves dispassionately, and with as little emotion as possible, and seeing what the potential weaknesses, the potential pitfalls are, and eliminating hazards that might catch you otherwise. So as I said, strengths and weaknesses are internal measures, opportunities and threats are external. A good SWOT analysis, which is why we're using it today, will help you to start to prioritize what it is that you want to do with your business moving forwards. So if you've been feeling quite directionless, and like we talked about before, like you're just sort of hosing your energies all over everything and really moving nowhere, a SWOT analysis should help you to start looking at things and prioritizing and saying, well, that's not quite so important. This is what I would like to focus on this year. I was saying to Joe before we started, my SWOT analysis that I did took me about 2 hours, and that was with nobody in the room with me because it's just me. A good SWOT analysis should take you a few hours, and maybe a little bit more if you're working with somebody else, because it starts with a massive brainstorming session where you literally just write down everything that comes into your head. And then you start winnowing and, you know, making smaller and choosing the things that you want to choose. So don't feel like you've got to do it in this session now. I don't think that's how it's going to work. I will give you the information that you need now, and I will make a PDF of this presentation as well, and put it in Membervault along with the recording, so that you've got everything that you need to be able to come back to it and do it at your leisure, kind of thing. So let's focus in on the top left quadrant, which is strengths. Remember, this is personal to you and personal to your business. I find it really helpful to put myself in one of my best clients' shoes when I'm doing my strengths. So thinking about, like, if you've got someone who's a real champion, a real cheerleader for your business, someone who, you know, like somebody who on LinkedIn's always mentioning you as someone to go to when someone says, I need this, and it's something that you could do. And think about what they think of you, because what they think of you, the things they think are great about you, those are your best strengths, aren't they? Because they're the strengths as well that you're showing to the world. Don't just do that though. Think for yourself, because there may be strengths that you've got that you haven't thought about using yet, so your clients don't know about them either. I would, when I'm thinking about my strengths, I would try and break it down into categories because it helps you to focus your mind. So think about finance, for example, like, have you got any strengths when it comes to finance? For example, are you loan free? Like, that's a really good strength at the moment, isn't it? To say that you've got no debts as far as your company's concerned. Did you get any grants or loans or dividends? Like, was there anything this year that financially sort of puts you at an advantage? I mean, I got the SEISS grant, but that was about it, and that really just sort of covered me for, for living this year. I didn't manage to get the other COVID grant, so I don't think I had anything to write in that column particularly, other than that I'm working in the plus column, like I have no debts. Think about HR, think about your people. So people is not just you, it's all the people that surround you as well. So if you've got a great network of people, like I provide a service, so it's not quite the same thing. But if you provide goods, it might be that your network chain, like how you get the goods to people, is really strong, that you've got great relationships with your delivery dude or whoever it might be, that mean that you can get your stuff out faster and cheaper to other people. Like, think about what you bring to the business. So on my strengths that I've got for my VA business, I put that one of my strengths is being an ex-teacher, because it means that I'm super organized, because even though it's not a natural thing for me to be, in fact, my mother would laugh if I told her I was organised, but I had to learn to be organised when I was a teacher. And it means that for the clients who I tend to work with, which tend to be educators, like tutors and consultants and stuff like that, the fact that I have a background in education is a really big strength of mine, because it means that they don't have to explain a lot of the stuff that's going on in the background, because I know how that sector works already. So if you, oh, hi, yes, Jo, go.
Katie, were you primary or secondary?
Primary. I was key stage 1, so the tiddlies, about the age my kids are now, so that's why it's even more depressing when I can't control them. That said, I can't hear anyone killing anyone yet, so we know we're doing okay so far.
Parenting's very different to teaching.
Often it's when it's quiet that it's dangerous, isn't it? You never know. Oh well. If I hear flames crackling up above. Yeah, so if you have volunteers, like people who help you out, it might be like, oh God, my stepmom helps me out sometimes with transcribing, because she's a mint typist and she never charges me anything. That's a big strength for me, because it means I can offer transcribing and it doesn't actually cost me anything extra. And she's a super typist, because she grew up in the sort of the 50s and the 60s, when being like a proper, you know, like not even looking at it and just with your eyes closed. So that's an amazing strength for me. And you might have something like that. So consider all the people who are around you. Like, do you have brand ambassadors? Like, are they a strength of yours? I mean, don't get me wrong, they might be in the weakness column too, but like for now, we're considering strengths. Productivity is another good sort of category to consider. Like, are your systems, do you have any particular systems that work well and that help you to move things along smoothly? I discovered Dubsado this year as my CRM, and I consider that a massive strength, because it has really helped me to smooth my onboarding process, which when you're a VA is really important, because like people hire you because they're busy, so they really don't want like a load of paperwork being hurled at them when they take you on. Marketing and like leads and onboarding is another sort of category that I have, that sort of covers your social media and like how you put yourself out there, basically. So think about like what's good about your advertising, what worked well this year, like what did you do this year that brought people in? Did anyone give you a compliment? Like loads of people say to me, again, it kind of crosses over because it's to do with Dubsado, but when I've taken clients on, loads of them said to me how much they like it, that it's really easy, that when I send them a proposal, they do the proposal, it brings them a contract up straight away, which they sign, and it takes them straight to an invoice, you know, bish, bash, bosh, done. And clients, I've had loads of compliments about that. And so I would add that to my thing as well. In Environmental's an interesting one. It is one that I try to use because it covers kind of two things, doesn't it? Environmental, I'm talking about your surroundings mainly, of course. So do you, like, is your physical location an advantage? Does your physical location provide you with any other kind of an advantage? Like, because I work from home, I have a financial advantage because I've got lower running costs, and I suppose a tax advantage because you can claim back, can't you, for your electricity and stuff like that. So Martin Lewis tells me anyway, I haven't tried yet. So yeah, that could be, but also you're also thinking about the environment as in the world as well, because that could be a big strength of yours. If you're providing a product and you're making sure that all your packaging is recyclable and that you're using sustainable methods and that you're I don't know, like planting a tree for every X number of, you know, packs of paper that you go through. That's a strength. That's something that you can give to clients and show to them so that they can feel better about buying your services. So, you know, scribble that down. That's definitely a good one. Weaknesses, you're looking at pretty much exactly the same thing again. So look at those categories: financial, people, productivity, your marketing and your leads and your onboarding. Oh, products and services, I forgot to say about products. Yeah, definitely look at your products and services and tell me what's strong about those. But also, like, what's weak about them. I think weakness is a hard one because it's really hard to look at yourself and say what you're crap at. But also, it's quite hard for me, certainly, to be emotionally detached from my business and say what I think isn't so good about it, because you're inside it, aren't you? So again, what I do at that point is try and put myself in somebody else's shoes to try and give myself that emotional detachment. So I try and put myself in a competitor's shoes and say, well, what would another VA say to a client to get, like, to take them on instead of me? Like, how would they say that they're better than me? I think I popped on there stuff like, for my marketing and leads, I think one of my weaknesses was that I'm so up and down with my social media. Like, one week I'm there and I've done it and I've planned it and it goes out, and then the next week I'm just like, I hate social media, and nothing goes out. So yeah, those sort of things have gone on my weaknesses list. In my services, I said that one of my weaknesses is because I provide an hourly rate, my services are really hard for me to scale. So in terms of the business, that's a weakness because I've got X number of hours in the day. And once they're sold, like, other than raising my prices, it's hard to do anything more than that. Hi.
Mummy, Archie's annoying me.
Well, Archie shouldn't be annoying you because you should be in your room with your computer. Go.
No.
Off you go.
No.
Well, stay here then if you want. That's fine by me too. Anyway, I knew it would happen. We'll move on from weaknesses and head into the external factors. These two are the hardest. These are really hard because it probably is going to take some research on your part as well. Like, you need to go and look in the business papers and, you know, read magazines and look around on social media for articles that are interesting, because they're going to tell you about the world around you and what's in it that could be something that you can exploit. So what you're looking for is an opening or a chance for something to happen, which you could take an action and sort of claim as your own. So we're thinking about developments in the markets that you're serving. I didn't have anything for that one. Developments in the technology that I use, I did have an opportunity for that one because Dubsado is starting to do some really good integrations that will help me to make my business a lot smoother. So they're starting to integrate with things like Xero and stuff like that that will help me to smooth my processes with invoicing too. Market trends, things like that could be an opportunity. So in that sense, you're looking at, like, for me, I said that because this year there's been such a big move to remote work and online working, actually VAs are a lot more common now than they ever were in the past. I think they've been quite common in the the US rather, for a really long time now, and lots of people have had VAs, but over here not so much. So that's a big opportunity for me, and I've got to make sure that I'm marketing myself and showing the advantages, and showing that, you know, now lots of people are remote working. A VA could be a way for, you know, some of these other companies to save themselves some money by not having to employ someone and pay, you know, sick pay and maternity pay and all the insurance and stuff like that that comes with an employee. You could also look for things like, I mean, obviously the massive one this year, aside from the cleanup from COVID, is going to be Brexit. So you're looking at policy changes as well. Brexit is really hard, guys. I've looked into it and I literally cannot find a single bit of information. I don't feel too bad, because all the people who are VA coaches as well, like Joanne Munro and people like that, they can't find anything either. So there simply isn't any information out there at the moment. There's a nice government website that says get ready for Brexit, and then you press the button and it doesn't tell you anything. But it means we're going to have to be able to think on our feet and think about what could possibly happen. So for me, that will be thinking about my overseas clients, like people who aren't in the UK, and whether that's going to affect me particularly, and to try and sort of get ready for that as well. We'll also be looking at like people's lifestyles, and like finance is going to be a big thing for people this next year, isn't it? Because there's going to be one group of people who are actually going to be a lot more affluent and who are going to want to spend money next year. All those people who were, you know, like who go on 3 holidays a year and are off in Barbados and places like that, they've got money that they're sitting on and they want to spend it. And if they're not going to be able to go on a holiday or something like that, there might be something else that they want to spend it on. And that's a potential opportunity, isn't it? Like people with more money because they've been nowhere and they've worked from home for 6 months, and, you know, they haven't even been out for a cup of coffee. I'm sure coffee machine people are probably like raking it in at the moment, aren't they? I bought myself a posh coffee machine with all the money I'd saved from not going to Starbucks this year. So that's another thing to think about. And threats it's pretty much the same thing. I'm so sorry about the picture. I couldn't find a good picture for threats, so I went for one that made me laugh in the end instead of one that was slightly like dark. Anyway, threats. Supply chain's going to be a big one, isn't it, this year? Like that could be a big threat. Sorry, it's my postman. Your supply chain could be disrupted, like come January, if Bojo doesn't sort his life out, like we don't know what could happen. That needs to be something that we're prepared for and that we've planned for, whether it's just making sure that we're informing customers in good time that actually we don't know what's going to happen with Brexit and we don't know how it's going to affect us. So please bear with us. You know, people are a lot more likely to be kind and understanding when they're told in advance and they know that you've thought about it in advance and that you're trying to do something, than if, you know, on the 2nd of January, all of a sudden, like one of your supply chains goes balls to the wall and you're scrabbling to catch up with yourself instead. You've got to get ahead of the game with threats, haven't you? Like you need to think about market requirements, what people are going to want to spend money on. Like, are they going to want to be spending money on what you provide? Has lockdown changed anything about the way that they're going to buy it, or what they're going to choose to invest their money in this year? It's all stuff that we've got to think about. Are there any potential obstacles going to happen between like your product and getting it out to people? Like there's social media is an interesting one, especially if you use it to sell a lot, because they're changing a lot at the moment, aren't they? Like Facebook changes every 30 seconds. Facebook Business Suite, don't even get me started on, because it drives me mad. I don't understand it. And actually at the moment it is a threat, because it actively tells me I've got a message and then hides it from me, so I can't find the bloody thing, which drives me up the wall. And so that is a threat for me, because I do get business through Facebook. Not lots, it has to be admitted. LinkedIn's my usual place. But yeah, all of these things are threats, and it's not anything that I can control. I can't, you know, get in touch with Marcus Zuckerberg and tell him it's poo. I've got to find my own way around it, and I need to be ahead of the game. Technology can be an opportunity, but it can be a threat as well, like evolving technology. often, like lorry drivers are under threat, aren't they, at the moment? Like if robot drivers start, then lorry drivers have got no chance. So you need to think about how technology could work against you as well as for you. Competitors is a big one on threats. So you need to be looking around you and seeing who else offers what you offer. Of course, there will be other people offering what you offer, like that goes without saying. So what looking at them closely will do for you is to help you to identify your unique selling point, what you've got that they haven't. So for me, oh my God, there are so many VAs out there, and there's even more since lockdown, because people have had to pivot and try something new. But what I've got that they haven't is my teaching background, and that is what people tend to hire me for. And also threats, you're probably going to look at finance again, aren't you, and say, is there anything finance wise that could be a threat to me, like in the run up? Like, it depends how you take your money. Like mine tends to be month to month, so finance is a bit of a weird thing because it's sort of a constant threat every month, because people decide month to month whether they want to use my services, and if they drop out, it could mean that I lose, you know, 400 quid that month. So I tend to have to oppose that threat by setting aside bits of my income to help me to sort of getting ill. That's a really good one, especially when you're like that as a teacher, like that one. Like I never was allowed to get ill because nobody could do what I could do. That's exactly it. And again, like that's something that you can plan for though, and it's something that by having like SOPs and stuff like that written down, I mean it's a ball ache, isn't it, writing an SOP? And a lot of the time when you're writing one, you're thinking, oh my God, I could just do this. Like, it would be so much faster. But when you're ill, when you're poorly, that SOP will come right into effect, because it means that someone else can step into your shoes and just do it for a day or two until you can get back on your feet, or, you know, even longer if necessary. Yeah, illness is a great one to think about. Thank you. I'm a nerd, so if there's a chance for a Tolkien quote, I'll put it in there. And I like that one for threats. It does not do to leave a live dragon out of your calculations if you live near one. I thought it was a pretty good thing. So now, once you've got your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and your threats filled out, then you've got to analyze them. And a really good way of doing it is like go through each of your grids and look at each of them separately and say, is there an action that I need to take? Is there something that I could do this year that would make my business grow using this strength, using this threat, using this? But then once you've done that, start to compare your grids together as well. Like, are there any opportunities in your bottom left quadrant that you could use one of your strengths to leverage? Do you know what I mean? Like, are there any links between your grids? Have you got any strengths that'll help you to combat threats that may be coming up? So like, yeah, if you're great at making little videos about how things work, like how to do an invoice on whatever particular thing, then your SOPs could be a lot easier to write out, couldn't they, for if you get poorly, because you can just video them instead. And then the job's a good one. And at this point, you will start to get a list of actions that you could take this year. So you've taken those 4 quadrants and you start to write a list, and it's going to be long, guys. It's going to be really long. And that's where you start to prioritize them. So I'll show you how to do that in a little wee second. But what I would do is focus on a value. So if your main goal for this year is to make more money, and it can be, that's okay. Like, we don't have to have woo goals about serving people and making their lives better. Like, the prime thing of having a business is to make your life better by having money. And that's okay. In that case, you look down your list of things and say, which ones are the best actions that I can take that will make me more money? I would suggest, rather than making it a financial goal though, if you're not sure what goal to go for, growth is a really good one. How to grow your company, because as your company grows, you will make more money as an inevitable consequence. But because you're focusing on growth, your business is more likely to remain stable, and it's going to be a stable growth with a stable expansion of your finances, rather than doing something really quick and getting a load of money in only for it all then to fall over and for you not to be able to use that anymore, that sort of strand that you've chosen to go down. So you look at every single action on your list and say, how strong is this at helping me to grow my company? And if the answer is very strong, like stick it up the top of your list, write them all out on Post-its. That's my favourite thing to do, and have different coloured Post-it notes. It's a teacher thing. We like Post-its. And then stick them up, red Post-its being your best ones, or green Post-its being your best ones. That will take you a good long time, dudes. But by the end of it, I would suggest that you will have some actions to write down on your planning grid. So there's my SWOT analysis from, I think about June. I started to feel really like, and did myself a quick one. So you can see in my strengths, I've got my background as a teacher, my flexibility. I think no woo is a big strength of mine, because I really can't bear these people who go on about like, no, that's not fair. I can bear them, because there is something really good about positivity and mindset. And as someone who suffered from anxiety, that it's not fair of me to say no woo, but I think there's a time and a place for woo. And being a VA, woo is not part of it. Being efficient is part of being a VA. Copywriting is a big strength of mine. I love writing blogs and stuff like that. My technical ability is a big strength of mine, because it means I can pick up new systems quickly and adapt to them. And loads of people, like I said before, have complimented me on my onboarding system, so I put that on my strengths. My weaknesses are the two little things upstairs who are currently, I think, killing each other, but I'm not sure. Social media is a weakness of mine, because I'm not consistent. I already talked about scaling my business being a weakness, because if I sell hour to hour, I don't really know how that scales up, other than becoming an agency, which is not my cup of tea. A lack of capital, like I haven't got investment capital or startup capital or anything like that. I never applied for startup loans, which means that I'm not as able to invest in systems that could make me more productive at the moment. And because I'm relatively new to being a VA, I still have a reputation. So a reputation to be established, should I say. I don't have a reputation at the moment that I think is a weakness, I hope. My opportunities were COVID normalising remote work. Lots of people becoming freelance and being self-employed means that lots of people will need like VA assistance. And with online learning exploding this year, with lots of people taking courses, and that's kind of my thing, education, that should be a big opportunity for me. Threats, Brexit, the fact that there's a huge recession on the way means there's less money in the pot sort of out there for people to hire people, and the fact that I'm a new VA, it's a weakness, but it's a threat, because there are loads of other VAs out there who have got tons more experience than I do, not in education, but definitely in being a VA. So when I went through, WAGOL, by the way, means what a good one looks like. Sorry, I should have explained that right. That was a full afternoon. And I winnowed that down, I think, to really focusing on my strength with my background as a teacher. That was one of my targets that came from that, was to focus on that and use it in my weakness of not being fond of social media, to really put myself forward and put myself out there on social media as someone who specialises in education. I haven't gone with the no woo, because I worried that would sort of isolate people and make them think I was horrible. The stress-free onboarding system I chose to go with, and I now use that when I've got a discovery call with someone. I tend to really sort of push that as something that will make life very, very easy for them, and I do talk about it on social media as well. There are some things, though, that never got picked up on and that won't get picked up on and got lost, like main caregiver to 2 small children. Well, what am I going to do to, like, that just is. It's not something that I can make into a goal, and it's not something that I can to stop. Like, it's just there as something that I need to be aware of in the background, if you see what I mean. So here's the overall planning grid. My suggestion is that as you prioritize all of those things from your SWOT analysis, you try to find 5. I would say 10 is your absolute max. Like 10 is a lot to try and achieve in a year. When you're thinking of big overarching goals for the year, 5 seems ideal to me. You don't have to have one in every single bit. If you're choosing to focus in on productivity, or if you want, you know, 1 in productivity, 1 in HR and 2 in leads, like that's fine, that's okay. 5 is probably your best bet though. So when you're creating your action plan, no more than 3 in each area, because otherwise you're over focusing on one area and other areas are going to get left behind. As I said, don't have more than 10. I would say 5 or 6 is probably a good one. And as you're putting them in there, start to think about your timeline. Like, are you going to do them all at once through the year? Or are you going to choose to focus on 1 in 1 quarter and another one in another? Like, how's the best way? And that's going to really depend on you and how you work best. If you can focus on 3 things and do them right through the year, because it's going to take that long for them to be achieved at the end, double thumbs up, you know, more power to you. That's great. I tend to work better focusing on one thing for quite a short amount of time. So my goals tend to be quite short term, like get them done and then move on to the next thing. And the other goal, the one that I've done in the first quarter, kind of, it remains on my action list, but as a sort of ticking over. Do you know what I mean? Like the majority of the work's done and it just ticks over for the rest of the year so that I can assess it at the end of the year. Right, I am cantering now because I feel like we are going to run out of time. I can't see a clock, which was a big failing. So SMART targets. SMART targets is what I used to use with my students. It is a really good way of making sure that what you're asking yourself to do is something that you're going to see through to the end. Because if you give yourself a goal like grow my business, that is a pants goal. It's not achievable, and you are going to stop doing it after about like a month because it's not focused. It doesn't tell you how to do it. It doesn't tell you when to do it. SMART targets help you to maintain focus and motivation. They stop you from setting yourself up to fail with general goals that are just never going to work, and they give your business direction. And they make it easier to organize your goals as well, because when you've got a SMART target, you can see how to break it down easier as well into like manageable chunks that you can do. They also let you allocate your time, and they give you a higher chance of achieving your goal. Anybody will tell you that. Like if your target is SMART, your chances of achieving it are hugely better. So it's a really good thing to do. So specific is the first one. That is the in SMART. Specific means that you can't have an ambiguous goal like grow my business. Ask yourself what, why, who, where, and which. These are really good questions that will help you to make a very specific question. So instead of saying, I want to grow my business, you might say, I want to increase my revenue by X amount. Or for me, it might be something like, I want to increase my client capacity by, you know, taking on 2 more clients a month or whatever it might be. Like that is specific and it's measurable as well. And that's kind of, that's the next one as well. If you can't measure what you're doing, you can't tell how well you're doing it. So you need something that will help you to say, how well am I doing at this? When you measure your progress, it helps you to stay on track with your progress in terms of your dates. It also helps you to know when you need to make changes and start to pivot, because if you're measuring your progress and how your progress starts to go down, it shows you something's not working on that goal and that you might need to adjust your goal a little bit as you go along. And certainly a good plan should be like that. It should be flexible and allow you to change as you go along. And also, I think when you measure goals like that, it helps you to see what you do best as well, because you can see how well you've achieved each one of your targets. So your how questions are going to work here. How much, how many, how will I know when I've achieved it? So like I said before, my one would be, I would like to grow my my target base, my client base by 2 customers a month. Well, that's easy to measure, 2 customers a month. I'll know when I've achieved it because I'll have 2 extra customers. Achievable is a really interesting one because it's hard, because there's a real sweet spot, isn't there, between setting yourself a challenging goal, because challenging is important. You need to be motivated to achieve it. But if you set something that's way up here and it becomes apparent halfway through the year that you're never going to get there, your motivation drops out already, doesn't it? Like, and you never get there. So you've got to really carefully look at it. And I think actually the next one helps with achievable, and that's relevant. You've got to look at your goal and say, is now the right time? Like, is this goal something that I need to do now? Hopefully, if you've done your SWOT analysis really well, you should be able to say yes to that, because you'll have knocked off all of the non-relevant ones before you ever got this far. Current climate, like, is it relevant in this climate to be doing this particular goal? Should I be asking myself to get 5 extra customers a year when people's finances are so sort of shoestring at the moment? Like, those are things to ask yourself. And like, is it really worth the hard work? If you're going to set yourself a challenging target, ask yourself, do I really want it? Because if you don't, you are not going to achieve that goal. Time sensitive is my biggest one. And this is why SMART targets work the best for me, because I work to a deadline, and I always have. It has been all the way through my life. I have been that one person sat up at 12 o'clock at night. In fact, I can tell you this presentation, 12 o'clock last night, because that's how I work. I work to deadlines. Deadlines make you accountable. They also help you to focus, because like we've said before, you can get lost in day-to-day business, admin, back-end stuff. If you've got something that you've got to achieve, and you've got to achieve it by this date, it makes you make time for it in your day. So the way to make your goal time sensitive is to ask yourself, like, what part of this goal will I do today? What part of this goal will I do this month? What part can I do next month? Like, 6 months from now, where will I be on this goal? And set yourself little targets on all of it. I can hear Rosie screaming. Roo, are you okay? So here's my target for this year. One of mine is to roll out a set of Dubsado setup services, because Dubsado was one of my strengths and it was really good. And other people like using it. Come here, tiny sad. I decided that I would, look, Joe's waving at you. I decided that I would use what I've learned about Dubsado this year to set up services for someone else. Oh, baby girl. So my target, written out so that it's smart, is to roll out a set of Dubsado setup services, which will be a course, a basic setup, and a deluxe setup. So 3 things that I want to have rolled out by the end of this year. A course, so that people who just want to learn it for themselves and can go and do it will go and do it. A basic setup for people who just want to get going on it and then, you know, do the iggity-biggity bits themselves. And a deluxe setup where, you know, we do the bells and whistles and the CSS and the stuff like that that makes it really pretty. I said that I wanted the basic setup course released by the end of the first quarter, because that's something that I can do pretty quickly, because I already know how Dubsado works. So there's no reason for me to put off just putting that service out next year. I want the deluxe service put out by the end of the second quarter. And then I want the course to be done I want the course researched and laid out by the end of the 3rd quarter, and I want it launched in the 4th quarter, because the course is the one that's going to take longest, of course, because there's stuff to make for it and videos and all of this sort of stuff to do as well. So that is my SMART target. It's a long one. It's not like one sentence, because it has to include the specific part of it, and then the time sensitive part of it. All of these things take a little bit, but I've got one good target there. And that's how you do it. That's what a SMART target should look like. It should cover all of those SMART bits. So we could see from my target, is it SMART? Well, did it say what I wanted to achieve? Yes, it did. It said that I wanted three different Dubsado setup services. How will I know the target's been met? Well, presumably by the end of the year, I'll be able to say, yes, I put out 1, 2, 3 services. Is it in the sweet spot between challenging and achievable? Yes, I think it is, because the first one is quite easy because I can do it already. I could probably put that out tomorrow if I wanted. The course is going to be really hard because I've never done an online course before. So there'll be a lot of learning to do around that. And actually, this webinar is part of that because I want to use MemberVault. So this webinar has helped me to learn more about MemberVault in order to learn how to do a course. Is now the right time? Yes, I feel like it is. It is for me because I know a lot about Dubsado now, and for customers because there's a lot of freelancers coming into the market who will need a CRM system that works for sort of sole traders and small businesses and service related professions, and Dubsado is great for that. Also, there are loads of people in the US who do that service, but there's not very many in the UK. So a UK based Dubsado setup is a good one to do. What's the long-term timescale and can it be broken down? Yes, I broke it down into all 4 quarters, 1 quarter for one, 2nd quarter for the other, and the 3rd and 4th quarter for the hardest one. Bingo bango, 1 SMART target. Do that 5 times and you're sorted. Good fortune is what happens when opportunity meets with planning. Opportunity and planning, SWOT analysis. Oh no, Thomas Edison, guys. So, we're pretty much at the end now. What you guys need to do next is go and do your SWOT analysis, make your priorities, find 5, 10 max, and put them on your grid, like so that you can see that you're doing it across a range of different areas. Set those are your annual targets. Then in the planner, which is on MemberVault, break them down into quarterly and monthly goals. So what I need to do next with that Dubsado one is to start breaking it down into like, so out of that 1st quarter, what am I going to do in January? What am I going to do in February? What am I going to do in March? Like that. And then when you get to the end of every month, put it in your diary, plan in time to go back to your planner and look at what worked well, what didn't work so well. Do I need to make any adjustments? Is this goal going to work at all? Like sometimes you can get to the end of January and go, do you know what? That was bullshit. Like there was no way I was ever going to achieve that. I was very optimistic. I either need to adjust my timescales, adjust how I'm going to do it. Like, will I perhaps need to do some outsourcing to make this happen, or knock it on the head altogether and find myself a different goal to do instead? In which case you go back to your SWOT analysis and your big long list and find another one that you rejected first time round. So that is pretty much me done for now. I do have a service to offer if anybody would like to take advantage of it. You've got everything you need to do it now, but I think sometimes people need accountability, and that is something that I can help with, and specificity. So if you would like, I have got a couple of sessions. I think I had 5 to start off with. I've got 3 left now between now and New Year, where we will do all of this together, but for your business. So instead of me just talking in general terms, we will look at your business, and you will end up by the end with a business plan, and I'll even type it up nice for you and make it look pretty. If you would prefer something more, that's £97, by the way, but if you booked it in today, I would probably take 80 quite happily. If you wanted a quarterly package, we could do that. So that's like, it's worth nearly £400. I would probably take 300 today. And we would do that same power hour, but then at the end of every quarter, we'll meet for an hour again and go through your targets, what you've achieved, what you haven't achieved, make any adjustments that we need to make. And again, I'll type it up for you nice and pretty. And we'll have a final session in the December, probably before Christmas, where we do the SWOT analysis and look back at your year and see how it went. If you need the mega super extra deluxe package, this one would be a monthly session. So at the end of every month, we would plan in an hour where we would look at your business plan and make sure that you're up to date on everything. We'll adjust it where it needs to be adjusted. We'll analyze every month and see like where you're doing really well and where you might need a little bit more help or a little bit more of a push. And you'll have email support throughout that as well. So if you need somebody to just check in with you every week and say, "Oi, have you done that thing that you said you were going to do?" Like, just someone to poke is often a very helpful thing. I don't have to poke, but I can if you want, and I can offer you email support. So if you just need, you know, if you get to the middle of a month and you're like, "Oh God, you know, it's not happening. Like, what can I do? I just need to talk to someone." I will be there to help you out with that. That's worth about 1,200. But again, I think if it was today that was booked in, then I would probably accept £1,000 for that. But we could work out a payment plan because obviously it's right away across a year. I wouldn't expect it paid all up front. So that is me. I am done. I strongly suspect, because it happened when I was a teacher, that I have run ridiculously over time. But I hope you found it really helpful. My email address is on there. The website is actually a part of the email address as well. katiestonepa.com is my website, and you're very welcome to go on there and get in touch with me through that as well. And I think most of you found me on social media anyway, so I'm guessing you know how to get me on social media. Does anybody have any questions? Or, oh, hang on, I see something in the chat. I see, ooh. Yes. Realistic is really important. I think relevant sometimes is realistic, isn't it? Like, depending on who you ask for smart targets, like realistic is a really important one. Yeah, because as you say, like life happens, and even though we're not being, well, yeah, of course I can. I'll send it across soon. Like, if you're not realistic about them, then you're going to start getting really downhearted about halfway through the year, where you've had to knock about 4 of your goals off because they just weren't ever going to be achievable. You start to feel bad about yourself, don't you? So that's why it needs to be in that real sweet spot. Like you say, 2 small kids is an absolute pain in the backside at the moment, because mine gets sent home every other day for having a cough. Archie got sent home the other day because his temperature was 37.9. And I was just like, 37.8 is the normal temperature. Like, he's just been running around outside. So off we went and got another COVID test, you know, and you have to be able to be flexible enough. But I think if you've got a good plan that is realistic, as you said, Joe, then you can be flexible around things like kids and the unknown, and staying healthy, which is so important for all of us. Like I said, I learned that from my little panic attack in the car.
What you said just there about the guilt or the feeling bad when you're not meeting because of everything else that goes on, that for me is the work. So I've got the plan, I know where I'm going, I've got all of this, but then when things come in, it's almost like the pressure that you put on yourself.
Yeah.
Keep going. And actually, when you go, okay, right, I'm going to stop, I'm just going to look after me, it's the guilt, it's the push, it's that all expectations that you put on yourself. Nobody else does that. You just do it to you, don't you? Totally,
man. Yeah. And like, well, teachers more than anyone, like educators more than anyone do that, because they know.
Realistic and relevant goals have to be realistic and not challenging, yes, and pushing, yes, but not so the point that you feel terrible when you can't do them. It's really important.
Yeah, man, you have to be able to forgive yourself, don't you, if it doesn't happen at the same time, and just sort of accept that life happens around you. And I think the reason, like for many of us, like for me, the reason that I chose to be freelance and to do this myself was so that I would have the flexibility to be able to, you know, put the small people into school and go and collect them and go and see a nativity and whatever else it might be, so that I could enjoy my children while they're small enough to still come running to me when they cry, instead of, you know, just using me as a taxi service, which is not far off. Like, actually 6 now, as soon as cricket or football or something, you know, gets to be a big thing, that's it. Like, mummy just takes him to clubs after that. So yeah, you're exactly right. And I think that is where woo comes in a little bit as well sometimes, because although we know that our families have to be prioritised, it can be really hard to balance that with a business, because the business is important to you too. And it's like another one of your children, isn't it?
Prioritising, isn't it? You prioritise family, prioritise your business, actually prioritise you.
Yeah.
And work.
Yeah.
I'm learning it.
See, I've yet to do that. Like, I'm still ending up like, I put the kids into school, I come home, I work. Like, the work I do in the daytime is the work I do for my clients, and the kids go to bed at 7, and then I do all the back end stuff for the business, and then I go to bed. Really, that's about it. But equally, I am able to spend my weekends with the children, and actually mostly the holidays as well. And I could never do that when I was a teacher. So there has been an improvement in how I look after myself, but there's definitely more to be done there. And maybe, like, I don't see any reason for that not to be a target to achieve as well. It's harder to make it smart, because how do you measure that? But I only think that's hard at the moment because I haven't sat and thought it through. I think there is a way to measure how well you look after yourself, whether it is that you say, I'm going to give myself an hour every week when the kids are in school, or I'm going to give myself, I want Friday afternoons off. Like, that's going to be my measure of looking after myself, is when I get to just go into town and have a brew with no children there, eating my effing cake. Like, that would be my measure. So why not put that into your sort of, I'd put that into the productivity thing, because it does help you to be productive, because it stops you, like, say, from getting poorly and stuff like that. Full on, go for it. Yeah, absolutely. Right, I'm going to stop it and go and make the kids lunch. Hey, it wasn't too bad. I was only 5 minutes over. The 20 minutes question time didn't happen, but still, we did very well. Anyway, it's lovely seeing all you guys. I will upload this video into the member vault. I will make a PDF of the Who Jimmy What's It, and I will send you out another email when it's all done, so that you've got access to it. But thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it.
Really useful, really helpful.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Bye.